to the services meeting of Weymouth Town Council. It's great to see so many members of the public here this evening, and this is our last meeting of 2022. So hopefully we will finish this year with some good debate and some good discussion around the services the council provide. I understand a lot of the members of the public that have attended this evening are here to talk about item 11 on the agenda, which is the proposed arrangements for fairground for next year. So we will be moving item 11, unless there's any one that's against that, up the agenda. We will take that after item 6, which is public questions. I'm also proposing that what we will do is we will take the questions from the public on that item during that agenda item rather than in item 6, which is public questions. But they will first be introduced by Tony Hurley. So unless anyone is against that recommendation, that's the adjustment to the agenda this evening. Can I ask for apologies of absence, please?
Apologies from Councillor Frost and Councillor Candy.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other apologies? Can I have someone propose to accept those apologies? Thanks. And the seconder, Councillor Todd. And all those in favour of just agreeing, raise hands. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Do we have any declarations of interest regarding any business on the agenda this evening?
Chair, we have received any in the office and no dissertations that we.
Thank you very much. And as always, members are reminded should anything appear on the agenda, you can make a declaration at any point during the meeting. Moving on to the minutes of the last meeting. Do you have any comments, or do I have a proposer to accept them as a true record? Councillor Thurman. And seconder for that, Councillor James. And again, just the vote in favour. Raise your hands. That's unanimous once again. Moving on then to item 5, Councillor Questions. Was not notified of any questions by councillors on the agenda, from the committee, but I do have Councillor Wakeling who has submitted a question in advance. Councillor Wakeling, would you like to come forward?
Thank you, Chair. My question comes with a little video to watch as well. So on November the 5th, when the fireworks were on, I was sat at home cuddling my dog because he's not a fan of fireworks. So whilst I was doing that, I got my computer to screenshot the traffic in Melton Regis every 5 minutes, because what else would you do? And as you can see on here, on Google Maps, the traffic goes dark red when the traffic's really bad. And you can see it builds up along the Esplanade. The fireworks were at 8 PM, finished at 8:10. And that traffic took over an hour and a half to clear from that point. And I was at home starting to wonder whether I could believe what I was seeing and whether the traffic was really that bad. So I checked the webcam and it really was that bad. I brought this up at CEE, and obviously the Climate Emergency Group, one of their concerns is the traffic pollution caused by events such as this, because we believe the emissions from transport are actually worse than the fireworks. So my plea is, can this committee please ask the events team to look at ways to improve this situation? I cannot imagine for our visitors it's a very good experience to watch 10 minutes of fireworks and then spend 90 minutes in traffic. So there must be some way we can do, and we haven't tried anything for years, so something different, something new. Please, can we find some way to address this and provide a better experience for all coming to see our fireworks? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wakeling, for bringing this forward. I'm going to ask Tony Hurley, our operations manager, to respond.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, we are looking at this. We're going to be talking to Dorset Council's highways to look at what can be done in terms of traffic management and parking. I know there's also discussion about whether there can be some kind of shuttle bus in order to provide alternatives to parking of private vehicles. And also, I know on that particular night there was an issue with the town bridge being closed, which restricted exit from the town. But also whether we can try and prevent that kind of mass exodus on the seafront at the end of the fireworks displays by having some other entertainment. I know it's on the fireworks displays that we have in August, we have people dwell for longer on the seafront for food and for drink, but when it comes to bonfire night, we can provide some other entertainment which will just slow down people's exits from the seafront and just have a smoother sort of amount of traffic leaving the town centre. But certainly we'll be looking into options.
Thank you very much. Now, I don't propose to take much debate on this from members, because what I think is Councillor Waking's request that something comes forward to this committee where we can have a more informed debate. So I'd like to actually say that the officers do come up with a plan, take it to CEE, and then comes back to this committee when we have some ideas and suggestions to the committee to have an informed debate.
I'm not trying to, I'm just going to give you information. The information that I'm going to give you all is that Councillor Gray and myself are meeting with the transport manager for Dorset Council and the cabinet member for Dorset Council next week. One of the things that we will be asking them is about the potential closure of the pavilion car park on that night, and consequently a shuttle bus service. And I've spoken to the manager of the depot for the buses, and they're willing to have a look at bringing in a shuttle bus over that sort of occasion. So hopefully there will be a solution to this problem.
It was Council Hope was I noticed that the bonfire night this year, it did rain quite a lot, and a lot of people actually just sat in the on the seafront to watch the fireworks. So do we know whether actually the rain as it was coming down made a big difference to the amount of traffic, because that may well have done made a difference.
I'm not sure. I mean, it was quite well attended, despite there was a slight window opportunity when this rain cleared. I would imagine what people felt it was quite cold and waiting was to go fairly quickly afterwards rather than hang around.
Still could have made a difference there.
Okay, like I said, I think we can have this paper come forward to PE and then come back to this committee for further discussion and deliberation. I think it's the best way forward when we're more informed on what our options are and possible costs that may come with that. Okay, thank you, Councillor Wakeling, for your question. They're very good points. Going to move on then to item 6 on the agenda, which is public questions. I'm just going to ask, was there any questions from the public that wasn't in relation to item 11, which was the fairground? I'm guessing not. No. So we will move forward then to the item 11 on our agenda this evening, which is the proposed fairground arrangements. I'm going to ask Tony Hurley first of all to give us an overview, and then I'm going to ask members of the public to come forward with their information. I will request though, there are a lot of members of the public here this evening, and we do have a full agenda. If we can try and not duplicate points that other speakers have made already previous to them, that will help us with our business this evening and keep good time. So Tony, over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Provision of fairground bookings on both the promenade at Jubilee Clock and the pavilion forecourt is a long-standing arrangement that provides both entertainment for families and a source of income for the council. Last year, the council sought to generate additional income by increasing the number of bookings and the duration of bookings at the promenade site by the Jubilee Clock, where the council does not have to pay a site fee to Dorset Council as it does at the pavilion forecourt. This year, to mitigate the noise and visual impact of the fairgrounds on the Esplanade hotels, the council liaised with operators to locate only smaller rides in the area south of the clock, with larger rides to the north. Appendix C sets out proposals for fairground bookings at both the sites for 2023 for members to consider. The intention is for all licenses issued to fairground operators to be stringent in terms of requirements for controlling noise, opening times, set up and breakdown arrangements. Compliance with these conditions will be monitored throughout the duration of the bookings. In addition, officers will liaise with the police and community safety officers to address any community safety and antisocial behaviour issues that may occur throughout the duration of the bookings. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Tony. Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak first? Can I just ask if you come forward? We've got a lot of you. I don't think we caught all the names as you came in. You can just introduce yourself. There's no need to say which business you're from. But if you just introduce yourself and then state your points, and then we can move on to the next person.
I'm Claire, I'm the chair of the association for the hotels, and Richard the following meeting, I'm deputy chair. Just want to read out what members have come to me with and issues they're raising. We as an association have had many members raise concerns with us regarding the fairground rides placed on the esplanade near the clock tower and the pavilion forecourt. This has caused great disruption to not only members but businesses around them. We all understand the fairground rides generate income for the town, however, it brings stress and negative feedback from all who live and visits to the town. Our members are businesses and residents that they live and work on the premises, so are true advocates to the issues raised. Antisocial behaviour, noise disruption, traffic disruption, light disruption, negative reviews, loss of income as refunds have had to be made are concerns raised by members. Members who live with children, their kids are feeling intimidated to leave their homes alone as they have large groups of youths gathering nearby. Guests have also reported the same when booking shows at the local theatre. Rides such as the Oxygen, Miami Dance, Sizzler, Super Bowl and Superstar are the high fast rides most mentioned by members, which cause concern and the highest level of the antisocial behaviour. We're not against the fairground rides or the organisers, as we feel they've tried to meet our concerns. However, we feel the high fast rides are better relocated to an area where residential homes are not affected or businesses. We feel they've outgrown the esplanade and forecourt. We ask the committee to hear our concerns and address the issues raised, please. We've also mentioned the relocation by members of Lodmore Park to be considered.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Claire. Can I ask for our next speaker, please?
Jonathan Oldroyd, Dorset House on the seafront. So I won't duplicate what Claire has said, but I guess disappointingly we're here again, because I thought we'd sorted it last year, and we're going over old stuff. I suppose for me, the most concerning thing is that in your agenda you make reference to the fact that there was a lot of antisocial behaviour, lots of noise complaints from the streams and whatever from the big rides that were relocated from outside of our properties down to the pavilion forecourt. Yet you're willing and wanting to propose again for those to be moved back in front of our properties, the same rides. I guess really the thing I'd like everybody just to note is about our well-being. Claire's mentioned about that we all live on site, as well as our guests suffering from noise disruption. We thought that we had amicably sorted in front of our property on the esplanade. We met with obviously members of the Dorset Council and Edward Danter and Lee Danter, and what transposed last year worked well. No music, no big rides apart from the Star Chair ride, which was located in the side of the clock tower, and small children's rides. Well, you're proposing again this year to bring back what we stood up and complained about and talked about last year, to have the big rides of Oxygen, Miami Dance and the Star behind just the other side of the clock tower, which is where they've always been. And that will negatively impact not only us, but our guests. And the only other thing I'd like to add is that we don't want this town to become only a fun fair. We already have, you're proposing 71 days of fun fairs for 2023. That is in addition to the fun fairs that are already permanently there in Alexandra Gardens, at the other end, and also the Helter Skelter and other fun fair rides within the town. We don't want it to become our guest profile is not necessarily what it used to be. The town is moving, the town is changing. We've invested massive sums, some of us over £1 million, into our properties, into the town to bring a new type of customer to Weymouth with money to spend within the businesses in the town. And we don't want fun fairs. They have their place, but as Claire said, move them to something that doesn't affect our businesses, our livelihood and our residents. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Next speaker, please.
Andrew, I really don't want to duplicate what Claire said and what John said. I could not articulate any better. But in addition, all right, the 71 days is worrying, number one. But although we didn't have that many days, what we also faced with as residents on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, in terms of trying to get to sleep, but also in terms for our guests to get to sleep, and to add that on top, it's becoming problematic for everybody. I mean, last year alone, just take away the actual fun fair, which we had a very good agreement with Edward, and it went really well last year. And that's why we're actually really surprised that this has come back again, because it's almost like you're reneging on an agreement that we actually had. We all shook on it. But that's why John's articulated that. It's worrying that the antisocial factor is getting a lot worse, and then you're going to compound it by adding this to it, and we feel that Weymouth is going to go backwards. To have 71 days of fun fair will bring in ice cream and chicken every day, whereas we all attended the meeting the other day when he showed the vision for Weymouth, which was superb and showed something completely different. We seem to be regressing, and it's a little bit of a worry. And you know, I couldn't have said it any better than from the main fair.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Next speaker, please. Got any more?
I can't stand up, but I'd just like to add, I'm from the Esplanade, the Ocean Guest House. I'm new to the area. Since the fun fair and living on that Esplanade, also Alexandra Gardens is a thoroughfare after the fun fair is shut for people to have sexual encounters, defecating in the toilets. The trees haven't been cut for several years. And when that amusement arcade is shut, that becomes a hangout for people smoking cannabis, you know, drinking, frolicking. And it's us guys that are having to please it. I've had guests come down to complain because they can hear youngsters arguing, fighting. And this is the after effects of the closure of the fun fair when it's finished. You know, vomit on our doorsteps. It's just not, it's not appropriate. And as you know, my neighbours and colleagues have said that, you know, we're trying to bring money into the area. We're not running pie and mash hotels. We're bringing or trying to bring people with money to Weymouth to experience the good restaurants, the lovely places to visit, not people that are attending fun fairs. And as you said, that's a particular type of person, you know, and I think it's just unfair. We seem to be crammed. It seems to be all at our end. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker. Yes.
Excuse me, Keith from the Roundhouse, number one we estimate. I just want to make a point about ASB without wanting to duplicate. I sent videos to Tony and to Charmaine because the fairground attracts antisocial behaviour. Without the fairground, we don't get the ASD in our area. The fairground provides places for people to hide, to deal drugs, to take drugs, to indulge in all sorts of ASD, which videos have been sent into the council. And although I was thinking Phil from the pavilion would be here, though not obviously, it's interesting to note that last year, for the first time in the history of Phil having the pavilion, he had to employ security to stop the antisocial behaviour spilling into the pavilion. That's how bad it has got in that area. It is quite horrendous. And I say I've got lots of video. Some of it's gone to the police, some of it's gone to the council. I am quite happy to share it with anyone else that wants to see it, because it is horrific, really is horrific.
Thank you very much, Keith, for those points. Would anyone else like to speak in the public?
I think everybody's hit home on what we're trying to get across here is that with fun fairs, amusement rides, it attracts a certain breed of people. And I think that with the breed of people that it encourages are antisocial behaviour. And this is the big no-no. There's lots of, I'm from 107 Weymouth Bay Hotel, by the way. Obviously, we're trying to maintain a business, and I've just heard tonight that you're extending it up to 71 days now for fun fair attractions. I think that's just a bit below the belt, really. I mean, Weymouth should be an up-and-coming area, and obviously we want to keep it that way. And I think these attractions, as I say, has been mentioned, they're breeding antisocial behaviour, causing problems, encouraging drugs, and encouraging all the different crime. And if you notice, when these fun fairs do come to an area, crime rate goes up. I think that is the real key factor here, that the crime will increase while this fun fair is here. Not only that, it is impeding our business's views. It's not, you know, when people come down to the coast, they want to see a lovely view. They want to see a lovely beach, Weymouth Beach, one of the best beaches in England. And with these attractions, all they're getting outside their window is fun fair rides. They don't come down to see fun fair rides. They come down for a nice stay and a pleasant trip. Not bombarded with music and this oxygen thing that makes a hell of a noise. You know, look at it on the side of the businessman's point of view. You know, it's impeding our views, it's bringing the wrong crowds, and it's upsetting our guests. Thank you very much.
Now, guests do not come back.
So can I just add one last thing onto that? Also, the drug canisters that are found up and down our street from where they can buy, coming from that end is dangerous. It's dangerous. That something fake was going to happen there because it's freely done. And, you know, it's pitch black at night, you're on the harbour. I just think that, you know, we're going to head for trouble as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Unless there's any other. Let you come back one more time and then we're going.
Sorry, I just wanted, one thing I forgot to say, just going on to what you said, I actually took a photo. That is the view from our lounge that our guests look out on, and that was last year. You can hardly see the sea or the coast.
That was
That
summer. That was there.
was there through all the dates on the promenade this summer. And that's before you start putting the other things back on.
Yeah, that was the 5 days for August, was it?
That's it.
Yeah.
So one of the other cases.
The councillors do an open debate. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the members of the public for giving us these views. I just want to point out also what is in our papers here are not firm recommendations until this committee has made them a recommendation. These are options for the council to discuss and gives us a baseline to make a recommendation that we will then take forward. So there's just a clear clarity there on the process. I'm going to actually ask Councillor Tia Roos, as the ward member where this activity takes place, the opportunity to speak first, then Councillor Lambert, then Councillor James.
Well, that's very kind of you. I'm actually going to say I don't really like the fairground rides personally myself. I think the traditional ones we have on the beach are plenty. I think Weymouth has a lot to offer people without needing gimmicky things to draw people down. From my experience, there's always antisocial behaviour along the promenade and in the town centre, especially in the summer. But I don't like the idea that there's an increase because of an attraction. I think we should be supporting businesses as much as we possibly can with the cost of living crisis, I expect it will cost an absolute fortune for anybody to go on one of the rides. And I think we should be looking at alternatives, and possibly just changing, keeping the traditional maybe a bit more, and looking at how we can be a bit more greener with what we're doing. My son didn't use any of the fairground rides, bar the traditional ones on the beach for the whole summer holidays, and that's been for the last few years. So I don't know many of his friends who do either, because we've got a fantastic beach. Kids are quite happy with a beach. It's got sand, it's got sea. You can have unlimited fun. You can stick a wetsuit on and do paddle boarding. There's so much young kids can do these days. Without having to have a fairground ride that attracts what is sounding like really negative behaviour. So that's my personal view, and I understand people might have different views, but I think also considering that these businesses, along with a lot of others, will be at high risk of closing this year because of the cost of living crisis. To keep their energy going, to keep their bills up, to pay for everything that they're going to have to pay for, they need all the help they can get. And if they say that fairground rides are not helping them, then we have to listen. And as they say, they have the experience, they have the knowledge. If people are coming here to enjoy the beach, then what is the point of fairground rides? It's for locals, but the locals are probably here because they appreciate the beach already. So that's my view.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lambert next, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. A question, please. Presume we've got officers. The gentleman over there, if I understood you rightly, said that Wales Town Council had reneged on an agreement. Is that?
Yeah, we were asked, if I may, the year before, I think you spoke to somebody, last year, sorry. We then met with Edward Banter, because we raised the concern with the council. There was some confusion on the memorandum, which we raised with the council. The council then said, right, why don't you two get together with Edward Banter, the fair organizer, which you actually put us in touch with. We met with him, we came up with an agreement. He kept this agreement. When the council then came and said, have you all agreed and everybody happy? We had a follow-up meeting at the front together, and we said, yes, everything's been agreed and we're happy for it to carry on into next year. Everybody went away happy. And then we saw exactly what was written on the proposal for your meeting, which was in complete contradiction to what we actually agreed on.
Can I just, Councillor Lambert, just a point of clarity on that. About 12 months ago, this council set its dates and its recommendations for the operation of 2022. Okay, and that was the conditions that the gentleman is describing. We are now in a position to discuss our dates and conditions for 2023, and it is in this committee's gift to make those same recommendations as a recommendation forward. So there hasn't been any breach of agreement, or to answer your question, Councillor Lambert.
Okay, thank you.
Perhaps, if I may, the renege implies a documentation. Maybe it was more of a verbal.
Sorry, I was just I'm trying to make sure that we keep this structured. So, Councillor Lambert, would you just like to finish off, or are you happy?
Thank you, Chair. No, I'm happy. I just wanted that so we can have some clarification. Thank you.
Of course, Councillor Lambert. Councillor James next.
Thank you, Chair. I was just looking at the 71 days, which does seem a lot, and I noticed some of the dates run into each other from like May half term and then the events. So I don't know how that can be whittled down at all. Can I just start? There's a couple of things, but one of the questions is this total hire fee, which the town council anticipates needing to pay Dorset Council. Is that a sum that we will make from the rides, or is that just something we've got to find to pay Dorset Council for using their land. Is that, am I getting that, reading that right?
Just for clarity, on the pavilion forecourt, we hire the site from Dorset Council. And then we pass all of that cost onto the operator. In addition, there's a fee that we charge the operator for the number of rides they have. So it doesn't come out of the council pocket, but it is an element of the fee that's charged to the operator.
Right, so it's not costing taxpayers anymore. I have to say, I agree an awful lot with Councillor Roos, because if you look on the actual proposal document, the actual agenda item on this, there is a red section on the splashed up, and that is about antisocial behaviour. And I think we all know, and I know you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but we all know that these sort of things do attract antisocial behaviour. And it's one of the reasons why with my own children over the years, who are now grown up, and with my grandchildren, I've never been over keen on them spending time at these places, because one of my sons actually got his nose broken once by somebody that just punched him there on the pavilion forecourt when he was about 16. So yeah, that they do attract the antisocial behaviour, and that is really where the police need to be doing more. And I'm fed up with hearing that they're understaffed and overworked and haven't got as much money. This is a yearly occurrence with antisocial behaviour, as well as all the other antisocial elements that happen in this town. So the police really are not, in my opinion, doing as much as they should be. And I think I agree with Councillor Roos that there is so many other things here in this town that people that are visiting do and see. And I certainly wouldn't want to be looking out my window at that bouncy slide or whatever it is all through the summer. I would, if I'd come here and gone into my hotel room and that was all I could see, rather than a beautiful bay that we are always advertising and telling everybody, that this what makes Weymouth, I would not be happy. I'm not happy to go along with the recommendation at the end of this that we recommend the dates. I think this needs to be brought back and looked at as to how many days we're doing, what fairground rides we are going to allow. Because again, I thought all the loud, big, tall, noisy ones were not going to happen. And I have to say, if over the years, previous council and now Dorset Council have got their finger out and dealt with the whole peninsula site, you'd have an ideal place to set up a nice fun fair area on that peninsula at the end. So you're out of the way, you're not hurting anybody, and that really is something that Dorset Council need to be dealing with. And it just seems that I personally think we get shat on a lot by the council. Sorry, but that's how I feel by Dorset Council.
Out of the room of the paper.
Well, I know it's written, but we're doing.
Going to move on now. On the subject of the paper.
I certainly will not be voting to recommend that we agree those dates until we can come up with something that is going to suit people in this town that are running businesses, that are trying to keep their heads above water. And that there's, we sat here 2 years ago, I believe, looking at other alternatives.
I think.
And we've come up with nothing.
You've made those points.
So,
I think that's, yeah.
do better.
Councillor Byrne.
Very well done.
Thank you very much. No, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And Claire, thank you so much as well, because I know when we spoke last year, we talked about the Hoteliers Association being a lot more involved. So really thank you for going back to them and for kind of spreading the word and getting a real broad spectrum from the hoteliers. Thank you. So a couple of bits I'm going to ease back on, but I'm also going to try and come up with maybe some solutions for us to think about, and possibly an amendment to the recommendation or an alternative recommendation. So yeah, I've noticed over the last kind of 5 years that we are starting to get more boutique, more stylized hotels popping up. I know there's like the Lawrence of Arabia one that's currently working on, and you talked about those sort of like specialized properties in regards to kind of what you can offer residents, and obviously within that you're having to, I guess, keep single glazed windows, and as you're keeping your tradition and also progressing within your style elements, you've got rides that are getting louder and louder because they're advertising themselves by increasing their volume, aren't they? So I understand about the ASB. I think whenever we put on events in anything, ASB increases because you've got an increase in the number of people there. I remember as a young lad spending many an evening in alley gardens, you know, drinking 2020. You know, that's the thing that people do in this town. However, I think from my conversations with members of the youth council, they really do like the fun fair. And it is somewhere that is used by our local young people. So I'm not ready to advocate that we just say a particular breed of people is the only ones going there. It's always going to be a few bad apples. And there's going to be a lot of people there that are just going, spending money, having a nice time. There will be. Now, there'll also be the bad apples. I take that. And from my conversations with young people in the youth council and the way that actually this was coming up, I put this to them. I said, how do you feel about the fun fair? And they said, actually, we don't want it on the pavilion forecourt. We don't want it in the Jubilee clock, which I'm sure you'll all quite be happy with. And they're principally the people who are using this place. What they preferred as theirs was the peninsula. Now, I'm kind of thinking that we should put a recommendation to officers to investigate the profit difference, the day increase, decrease on what we can do in getting that fair to the peninsula, but also thinking about, and I know I've mentioned this members a few times, is about the street food kind of night market as a different offering for the town. We have got people that are interested in delivering that. Whether we could have at the Jubilee clock something that won't generate any noise, but will generate footfall and you know, something that's maybe a bit more, you know, promoting our food culture alongside, you know, what you guys have got. And it wouldn't be there in the day. You'd have your, you know, the beach view. And I'm just trying to think, and forgive me, I'm not trying to deter any of your kind of opinions or thoughts on that. I'm just trying to find something where we can turn what is a negative into a positive by looking at it in a different way. So I hope you can appreciate that. So I think I'd like members to maybe go back to officers and see about whether we can look into what the cost factor benefit is of moving all the fair rides to the peninsula. I mean, in terms of security, it puts it in one place. The young people that I've spoken to seem to think that's a good idea. It may come with some support from police officers because it's one area that they have to work on rather than, you know, splitting it up across the seafront. There's potential there for the alley gardens, and you know, there might be a bit of 2020 going on, but at least it's in one area that could maybe be policed and security given. Yeah, so that's where I'm at. But I'm interested in what members might think on trying to do that, and I'll let the chair. Sorry, I talked a lot there, and I hope it made sense.
No, thank you very much, Councillor Furman, for giving us, of course, that important view of our new youth council that's in the process of being set up. Councillor Taylor next.
I don't wish to speak.
Councillor Councillor Dickinson, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. When I was going through the agenda, me and Kevin were looking at it, one of the things that instantly hit our minds was the big red splodge on the risk assessment. And in the risk assessment, it says the licenses issued to operators will require that appropriate security is put in place at all times. Is that private security by the operators that should be done?
Tony, would you like to respond?
Yeah, we would expect the operators to put in place their own security industry agency, you know, accredited staff.
Yeah. And my second question is to the hotel. Did you see any of these?
Oh, that's new to this recommendation this year.
Yeah.
So that's if there was security, it would only be within the confined spot.
Yeah, it doesn't affect us as.
You've answered the question.
Councillor Dickinson.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Councillor Harris next.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'd like to follow up what Councillor Furman has said and say that I was at the youth council meeting, which did say to us very clearly that they would much prefer to see the fairground rides the other side of the pavilion, not the side that they are in front of the pavilion.
Right.
So that is certainly something we should be investigating and seeing whether that can work. I'm totally opposed to us changing the agreements that we reached with yourselves for those around the actual clock. And that must certainly be reversed, even if we might not even want to have anything there in the way of fairground rides, if we can go ahead with behind the pavilion. I also think that as a council, we need to be looking seriously, if we want something for those young people that is more permanent for a little while, then it should be in the Lodmore Country Park. So those are the proposals that I would like us to be considering as a committee, and certainly I would see no advantage at this point in time in us extending the number of days until we've actually resolved some of these problems.
And just just a comment, I think it's important coming here from our assistant town clerk, Charmaine Denning.
Just to let you know that we have already spoken to Dorset Council regarding potentially inviting the fairground on the peninsula, and they still haven't got any firm decisions on what works they're going to be doing on the peninsula, and they can't give us a firm answer until March. So we won't be able to make any decisions tonight because we won't know until March what will be happening on that site.
Can I just start, sorry, yeah, about the peninsula.
Can we just get through the council, your answer might be, back through the debate. Councillor Young.
Yeah, I was going to, Councillor James beat me to the question on the amount of money that comes from there or is involved in the leasing the site there. But it seems to me that the what we actually get as a town council might actually be a lot less than the cost in damage to reputation of the town.
Exactly.
We're trying to bring a new sort of visitor into the town. And the people that really know what those new visitors want are the people here.
Yeah.
And these are the people we should be listening to. Now, as far as the fairground, I've got two daughters. When they were teenagers, they enjoyed going to the fair, and it would be great if we can continue with some sort of fair. But if we can relocate it, that would be a lot better. And clear it from the Alexandra Gardens and this area on the seafront that has a negative effect on the hotel.
Councillors that want to come back in for seconds. Before I do, can I just check that there's no new councillors that wish to speak at this point that haven't yet? Okay. So I'm going to go to Councillor Roos.
I just wanted to support Councillor Harris's proposal that we look at Lodmore, but I think maybe because it's next to a nature reserve, the noise levels might be an issue. I think that we need to know what the impact is on everything. But I also think we might need to look at if there are any other options. Because the thing is we always forget that there's Bowley's Cove and that there's a whole fairground down there as well for young people to go to. And they're actually doing themed nights. So last summer, if you go to the actual holiday park, the bit outdoors, they had different themed nights, live bands, live acts, and it welcomes teenagers and kids as well, you know, and it's for residents as well as people staying on site. So I think we need to have a bit more investigation into what is actually viable, what's already available, and because Lodmore seems like a good idea until you think about maybe how it might impact the nature there. And obviously we need to know about the peninsula, but Dorset Council might drag their heels on that. So
thank you very much. Just again, I'll just the assistant town clerk might want to come in with a point about Lodmore as a potential site.
So both at the youth council and also talking to the operators, both of them have said the youth council said that the young people wouldn't necessarily use a Lodmore site. They felt it was too off track and it wasn't accessible by public transport. And the operators have also said that they would be inclined not to use that site due to football.
And Councillor James.
Yeah, it was just a question actually to Councillor Furman. So am I right in thinking you agree with what I said about using the peninsula as a potential area for the fairground? And I know we've just heard from Charmaine that Dorset Council may well drag their feet. Maybe they ought to stop dragging their knuckles as well and get on with it. So
Yeah, Councillor, to answer your question, yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
yeah,
Yeah, have done since they raised it, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Just obviously a thought in this, and again, we do need to be cautious to budgetary conditions that this may hold. Our Finance and Governance Committee will be meeting next Wednesday to discuss the budget. And I think it's important that members recognise that after payments to Dorset Council, that the use of the pavilion forecourt could generate in a region of £15,000 away from the town council. Within the papers.
How much do you think?
Sorry. I finish speaking, please. I give you the opportunity to speak, I didn't interrupt you. So members need to consider that in tight times when we're going to be looking at precepts and other possible cuts to services. Within any recommendations that comes forward. And we need to recognise that this money could be used to offset additional events that benefit businesses throughout the summer. This committee has expressed desires to have a full 5 or 6 weeks worth of fireworks. So far budgeted is only 4. We need to find the money for the additional 2. So it's just, whilst obviously we've had the information here around the concerns of antisocial behaviour, this committee can look to resolve that by introducing within the lease agreements that the operator use accredited security, not just for the duration of the operation, but for an hour afterwards. And that the security doesn't just operate within the area of the fairground, but the surrounding streets adjacent. The other thing that this committee can look to do within its recommendations is tightening up on noise control and hours that we allow the music to be played. These are all gifts that the committee can do within its licence. And we could also choose that one of these dates that we do offer a free trial of the Lodmore event site, because that's our land, so it'd be at no cost to us to do so, to trial the fairground there to actually see what the footfall looks like, how the operator does. These are things that this committee can decide. I'm also going to ask, before we look into a recommendation to the officers, that what would be, hearing this discussion this evening, what would there be an impact on delaying this to the January meeting, to come back with a recommendation that looks to address the concerns of the residents and some of the ideas that have come forward from committee this evening?
No, I think we could probably delay it until early in the new year and talk to the operators about what their need is, if they need to have, forewarning of any bookings. We can discuss that.
Okay, Councillor James.
Can I add to that then, if we are going to bring it back? Could we also have some information or maybe a presence from the police to explain antisocial behaviour that they've had to deal with in the past? Because as I understand it, we've already paid for extra security around the town, and as so has the BID, I believe. So we've got all these extra security personnel wandering around. And if that's not enough to stop the antisocial behaviour, I think we need to hear back from the police as well on what they intend doing about it, because it is a problem. There's no good hiding away from it. And also, yes, see about the licensing terms and everything else, but I definitely think we need to hear something from the police. They seem to be very quiet on this.
Just a point on that, Councillor James, and Charlie may come in with some additional here. But as this will be an event that we are also, although we are subleasing it, but we are hosting, we do have an obligation to manage antisocial behaviour from our event, same as any other event we do. So yes, it's good to get the police involvement, but the police really aren't reliable for managing antisocial behaviour at our events. We need to do that within our operation plans.
When does it turn from antisocial behaviour to criminal behaviour? And that's the bit we need to understand more fully, because I'm sure that does happen.
And again, that's within us. We need to manage that within our plans and operations to reduce the risk of that.
Yeah,
so I'm going to make a recommendation for the chair, obviously hearing the debate this evening, that we defer this item to the Services Committee that's due to be held on the 18th of the 1st. And we ask for a meeting that we get some hoteliers together, maybe the Hoteliers Association, the youth worker from Dorset, because I'm concerned around some of the safeguarding that's been brought up this evening around drugs and young people and the activity within the Alexander Gardens that have been brought up. Maybe one or two representatives from members of the public here this evening. I'm sure you are all talk to each other and involved, so maybe one or two of you, Dorset Police, neighbourhood officer, and a few representatives from the council to help shape a proposal to come back here in January. I'm aware that we've got Christmas break in between there. Do officers feel that we've got time to do that? Do I have a seconder to that proposal then? Councillor Tewkesbury. Okay, to that proposal, Councillor Brooks.
I think there's an immediate thing that we can do this evening, and that's not to agree that recommendation for those extra dates. End of story. We're hearing a lot of issues regarding antisocial behaviour. We all know that it's happening because we're hearing it from the hoteliers. It's also there in big bold red on our impact assessment. So I think we should be focusing on what we can do as a town, as a council straight away, rather than trying to sort of have a discussion with this and have a discussion with that, and let's see if we can. I appreciate what you're saying, Christine, but you know, I think they're all just lots and lots of issues which we've all tried to sort of come some sort of conclusion over the years, which just seem to be sort of totally beyond our abilities sometimes. So I think we should just focus straight on what can we do? What can we do as a town council? And that's number one, don't agree any extra dates. Number two, look at alternative sites. So get the big noisy stuff on the other side of the pavilion, as near to the sea as possible. Because if you want the fairground operators to instigate some sort of security, I can't think of a better place when three sides is the sea. The Seafood Festival managed to get out there 21 and barrier the place off and have an admission fee. So if they can do it, perhaps some of the operators of the noisy big oxygen things, that they can do that. And if they don't want to do it, or they want to go somewhere else, let go somewhere else.
As a proposer, I personally don't want to stipulation on removing those dates, because we may choose that those additional dates are allocated as free dates or reduced dates to try the lot more. And I think let's let the working group that we've just discussed come up with those dates and those discussions. Let's not put any restrictions on them tonight. And we can discuss that as part of the recommendation that comes back on the 18th. Anyone else on the recommendation? I'm not, just because of the time, but
I just want
maybe
to
an
add
hour.
one thing. You guys spoke about a £15,000 revenue from the car park. I don't think you're being very creative as a town. I think that we've got local artists, we could have markets, we could have really creative things going on in that space that are done during the day that are family orientated. I think you're talking about saving your revenue. While you're saving your revenue, we're suffering. Because we are having to
Can I just say though, that they are very valid points. They're not part of tonight's agenda discussions. But if you do have those sorts of ideas, do contact your local ward members. Councillor Roos is one of them. Put those points forward there, because Councillor Roos can bring those forward as options. And we are looking as part of our seafront master plan and offering alternative events and different things we can do using our seafront. So the very valid points, but not for this item. Do contact Councillor Roos or Al or sorry, I can't remember the first name, Watley, about those options.
I want to say something. You don't seem to care about anybody's businesses. You only care
Sorry,
about.
I'm trying to sum up this item now, and I think that's unfair to make that judgment.
It is you.
So I would agree, you're absolutely right. but you just made a statement about when is the best time for us to talk about that with you? Because at the moment you seem to follow the agenda, which is absolutely correct, but there are some very valid points on social behaviour and loss of revenue.
I'm just going to finish this item on the agenda, then I'm going to address that point, and then give you guys the opportunity to leave, should you wish, or you're welcome to stay. So we've got a recommendation on the table that's been seconded. Councillor Brooks spoke to it. I have. Would anyone else like to speak to that recommendation? Councillor Furman?
Just a point of clarity, Tony, what's the, do we have an increase in what that is from last year to this year? Could you just?
In the number of days?
Yeah.
I think the 71 days at the pavilion forecourt has been that number of days roughly for so many years. And the increase at the Jubilee clock is 15 days.
Okay, I don't expect you to tell me this now. If you're able to at some point, just let me know what the profit difference is there in terms of value. Not in value of monetary, but I mean in terms of, you know, reputation and stuff.
Okay, Councillor Harris, did you want to speak to the recommendation?
Yeah, please. I'd like to support the recommendation and reassure the hoteliers that are here that you will have their input into the meeting that the resolution is providing you with, because we want to work with you before we bring anything back to the meeting in the January. So rest assured, you can talk amongst yourselves, and 2 or 3 of you will be representing and talking to us before we bring back anything before January the 18th.
Thank you.
But why wasn't that done before? You said last year you liaised with us. Why we represented ourselves? Why do we have to have another meeting? We told you.
Sorry, we've got a recommendation forward. We can have that sort of discussion, but I need to try and keep this meeting moving for the agenda.
Well, we've laid our cards on the table. You know, why do we need to have another discussion with you about it? We told you what our issues are.
Thank you very much. Right, unless I've got anyone else that wishes to speak to the amendment, I'm going to move to a vote. All those in favour of the amendment, raise your hands, please. 9-4. Those against the amendment? And any against? So any abstentions? And I just wrongly said it was an amendment, but it was actually a proposal for the recommendation. So that is this. Right, so we're going to have a way forward. We'll be in touch with the Hotel Association if you're happy to work with us on bringing this back forward. Just to answer your points there about how to engage with the Town Council and give us that. All of us as councillors, our email addresses are on the Town Council Facebook page. Obviously, the majority of you are based in Malcolm Regis. You can always contact your ward councillors or any member of the council with any ideas you've got. And maybe in the near future, we'll look to have a meeting, a more open meeting around the table rather than a structured committee agenda to get some of your views on what else we can do as a town council. But I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you all for your input. It was all really useful information. And if you'd like to leave now, you're more than welcome whilst we carry on, but you're also welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting should you wish.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just remind people while obviously we just thought the live stream is still going. Yes. And I'm going to resume now back to the meeting. We're going to move now back to item 7, which is the draft fees and charges and budget considerations. I'm going to ask our Deputy Town Clerk Ian Milne to introduce.
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully that will be a relatively quick agenda item. And that is because we're not really asking in this meeting, Chair, for a detailed discussion on the individual fees and charges. What we do have to do every year is to have a default position in line with the policy of setting fees and charges, which is basically increasing the fees and charges by inflation, which this year was 12, I think, 12.3, Chair, I think I recall. So this is actually the default position. Now, these fees and charges are not set in stone, as I sort of said previously, as they are just the fees and charges that will come into effect if we don't do anything else with them. What I would suggest, Chair, through you, is as part of the service reviews which are coming up in the new year, fees and charges will be reviewed as part of that. And as part of those discussions, members will have a lot more detail and a lot more benchmarking to make more informed decisions of where we are with those. So it's just really to note at the moment, Chair, but obviously it is in members' gift if they do want to raise anything individually and change anything.
Thank you very much, Ian. Thanks, James.
Just wanted to ask a question, actually, looking at the fees and charges, and it's probably something that's come up before, I don't know, but looking at the commercial businesses, what we charge or what they're being asked to be charged in 23-24 before, and then looking at what charities are charged. And again, don't get me wrong, I know they say charity begins at home, and there is a reason it's a charity, but of late we've heard an awful lot of stories about various charities. And are they actually a charity? And a lot of these charities are very well off. And if you look at what we're charging a commercial business to have a pitch, as opposed to a charity to have a pitch, there's a huge difference in that amount. And I just want to know how we come to that. And, you know, I don't know, do we really do enough research into a charity and into what they have in their coffers? And are we being fair to our commercial businesses? Because again, there's businesses I know in town that say to me, how comes a charity or how comes everyone else must have a stall in town and it's this cost, but I'm here running a business, paying business rates up against the wall, and you know, I'm not getting any help. And so I think, going back to what Councillor Roos says, the cost of living, trying to help commercial businesses, something we need to be a bit more canny about. And I just don't understand the big difference. £592 on the Good Friday for a commercial for a full week, £158 for a charity in the same week. That's a big difference. Maybe I'm just being finicky, I don't know, but.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor James. Councillor Furman.
Thank you. So Councillor James, I'm interested in that one as well. I was kind of thinking maybe that could be something we would hold for local charities that are not the national branded ones that may benefit from that reduced cost instead. I don't know if it's within our gift to break that down further, but perhaps some of those, and those charities are making themselves known to us through the lighting of the Jubilee clock, and we're beginning to have a better understanding of who our local charities are always, whether that 158 is applied to them as a kind of new local charity that's having an impact within our community, rather than, I'm just saying, a charity, you know, RSPCA or something that is a very well funded national one that we could perhaps bring that up into line. I don't know if that's, you know.
We already know that, I don't know.
Yeah, so I just, on that, I'd probably try and add a bit to that as you started there. I also noticed the increase in burial free, so that there's a freeze on the burial free fees, but we've increased the one on infant or children over 2 but not 16 years of age. So I was just wondering, can we just not put that up? If we're not putting the burials up, can we kind of not put the child one up as well? I mean, I know it's a very low number that we deal with the under 16 burials, but I just thought that would be within a small gift that we might consider a very difficult situation. And the third one was I noticed the beach fees They did come up in the PID that I presented in the last meeting or the meeting before. So are they being, a question to Ian, whether they're being factored in those new, not new proposed, because we haven't agreed them yet, but will they be able to be included within that?
The answer is, Chair, if I may, for you. Any changes which have been agreed, we can build in as the committee's recommendations.
Okay.
Could I ask Charmaine to come in as well on the what classes as charity point?
Some members may recall there was some discussion about this in some, especially regarding friends of groups using schools and gardens and or hiring pictures and gardens. If possible, it may be that we take this away and produce a policy so it's clear. So we could propose to charge more for nationals and less for locals and friends of groups.
And when you say commercial, that would be people that come in, obviously, that are there to make money, like burgers and pizzas and all that sort of thing commercially. But also, I believe some of the businesses in town have shown an interest in also maybe having a stall as well as their shop. And I think we need to look at that individually as well, because a lot of those businesses start to say,
Town centre bookings are actually in agreement with Dorset Councils. It's highway, not the town. So,
that
and I,
maybe
from what I
that's
understand,
usually a question.
Councillor James as well, I think that bid permanently go up pitch on hire from Dorset Council. So really, any local businesses that you know that wants to do a pop up or advertise a business, encourage them to contact the bid.
Okay.
Councillor James. Sorry, Taylor and then Gray.
Thank you. Just got a few comments on this. First of all, on the commercial pitches that we were just talking about, I wonder whether it's possible to make any more money out of the commercial pitches. Because as a council, if we're starting to cut back the events and what have you, we need an income from somewhere. And whether it's worth looking at them again and increasing slightly higher than the 12.3%. My first comment. If I can go on to cemeteries, and I think I know what answer I'm going to get for this one. Children under 2 in the cemeteries, we don't charge for. Would it be possible to put them as a line into the fees and charges, because that is a charge, but we don't charge? And I would totally support the one for under 16 that we hold that at 205. The other one actually relates to the item we've just been talking about on fairgrounds. And I wonder, we always tend to put it to the same person to do it. And I'm not saying that he's not good, because he is. He's done a really good job over the last few years. But I'm just wondering whether the time is coming that we take this out of the fairground fees, that we take it out of the fees and charges and start looking at it as a tendering process. I don't know what the review of officers would be on that, whether we would, what difference that would make.
Tony wants to come in on that point, yeah.
Yes, we have now a sort of clearer fee structure, so we can open it up to local operators and to other operators. We don't necessarily say that any booking is restricted to any particular operator. They, amongst their own showman's guild, may have certain rules they like to abide to, but from our point of view, it's an open market and we have no restrictions on who may want to come forward to book a slot.
At the moment, though, they don't bid, do they? No. So is there an option to open it to tender? I'm just wondering whether we would make more money or less money, or what financial implications of it would be. Whether we
I was just going to say that we've recently gone out this week for an closed earlier today for the attraction sites on the beach, and no matter how far and wide we spread the word, it's all because of what Tony mentioned. They always bid for certain areas. So I'm going to guess when I open the tenders later on in the week, it's going to be the same couple that have bidded for it. So they are very protective of the areas that they operate in. So I think we could operate that process, but it would take time, often time, and I don't think it would make that much of a difference to the income.
Okay, thank you.
Charlotte, did you have anything to add on that?
I was just going to say, in 2019, obviously, for town council, that they did give offers, the fairground operators. And then obviously recently brought in the price per ride per day thing. And we've actually generated additional income through having the daily ride and then the set fee per ride. So yeah, there's, you know, there was a slight increase.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Gray.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'm going to talk about the process rather than finance. I think we've got the first part of the process in place, which is Ian's quote and saying that once a year we add inflation to the prices. The second part of the process is what Councillor James is talking about, and one or two others, is about whether we benchmark or not. And I think we don't have that standard set of benchmarking in place because I think some of the burial stuff, I think I did ask Tara to do some work on what other people charge, and we were broadly in line. Now, it's not price sensitive in some ways, and it could be, you know, deck chair might be price sensitive. I'm not sure pitches are or not. So I certainly would recommend that you take the VAT, take the inflation rate as such, and then look at, once you've added those price increases, a set of benchmarking with either one or two suppliers to say, are we in line or not? Because we have inflation was at 12% when I think it's August when we set those. So I think you've got one half of the process in place, but not the other. I do quite like Councillor James' issue with the charities, because it's been on my mind for quite a long time. Not for the reasons that we're making more money. I think if by charging the nationals more money, we can hold the locals at a lower price, I think that's good news for us as a council in supporting the local charity. So I think it's probably worth the local, I don't know, dog friendly or whatever, the local charities, and we keep their fees really down, but by offset the nationals, I think that's probably something that we could look at. It's quite a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Brooks.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't think we should get too hung up about if you are a national charity or necessarily, because we have some very big local charities. Omar, for instance, and it would be a very simple process just to jump onto the Charity Commission website and see what their income is. So you could have a division 1, 2, and 3. Charities falling into the lower division could have a subsidised rate, and the bigger ones, the ones that can employ people to sit in an office and just approach other organisations for bids, constantly working up bids, sending out round robin emails to smaller organisations asking for grants, asking for money. If your organisation has got the ability to do that, or somebody to do that for you, well then they should fall into a slightly higher category, I think. And that would be quite simple to work that one out.
Thank you very much. I'm going to come in before Councillor Taylor just to make a non-pecuniary declaration if I can. I am actually a member of multiple charities that hire from Wellington Town Council. I just thought of that as Councillor Brooks made his point there. So it's a non-pecuniary, so I'm going to continue to take part in the debate.
I got that as well.
I think you have as well, Councillor. Okay, what I'm feeling from the conversation in the room here is I think I'm going to accept as is, but I think there's a request from members here this evening to look at one or two areas of the fees and charges that we may want to bring back and revisit within the next couple of months, back on the services agenda. So I'm seeing cemeteries, can we have a review on those charges, come back? Was there any other point, or Councillor Taylor, was you happy on fairground?
Yeah, I'm happy on fairground, but can I just have a mention on charities again? There's some of the very large charities have local charities within them. Like the RNLI, if you put a donation to the RNLI, it goes to all. But our local RNLI needs supporting as well. And you can actually put your donations to whichever. So I think we need to be careful rather than just looking at the charities commission, which is a good start.
Yeah.
But we've got to have an eye to which ones are fund themselves locally on that.
That's a very good point. So we've already got the beach, PID for the beach costs at the moment. So that's all, we've got other bits included. So that's already in the process. So I think just looking at those two at the moment, unless there's any others. So 3.
And the charity, yeah.
And then there's the second part of the recommendation that we ask officers to come back with a policy that outlines what classes in charity as a policy for this committee to consider.
Maybe a three tier, like, you know, what is the national with a local, even a local.
Okay, I think Charmaine's indicated she's aware of what we're asking for. So do I have a proposal? Sorry, Councillor, giving officers instructions, we need to take a vote as a committee to do that. So Councillor James, you're proposing to do on what we're asking officers to do within the recommendation.
No, can you repeat the proposal?
So we're asking what we're going to current fees and charges, to look at the beach higher fees and charges, which will come back and make change this. We're asking officers to come back with information on a review of sanitary fees and charges. And we're asking officers to come back with a policy that defines which organisations apply to charity, to free or reduced rate. Charity. What James, seconded by Councillor Taylor. Just but not we can make sure comms really get those fee charges out there, advertising what we offer and what price. I think we might see an increase in revenue from them rather than an increase that we might additional use. Sets a proposal from activity council. The performance
Of half an hour, we pay £50,000, or they got £50,000, we only pay £20,000. Am I right in that assumption?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah. Sorry, and there is community outreach and some workshops.
Councillor Berman, just want to point out there is a few community workshops as well that they also did.
Yeah, but how much time is spent on this? Because £50,000 is a lot of money. And I'm just interested in whether we're getting value for money.
from that?
I think, I'm sorry, Chair.
Councillor Furman?
Yeah, I would just say, in addition to the 2 half an hours, I would add to that. I still think that there's a concern of value for money. Yeah.
Who have I got next? Anyone? Councillor James?
I'd like to agree with the recommendation, providing they don't come back and ask for more because of inflation or whatever else. So I think, you know, they've got to cut your cloth accordingly, and I reckon if they do these workshops, there's enough people in the community, children, I think they can manage it. I was just interested in the figures about, you know, the percentage of people that came, 49% of those attending spent between 10 and 20 pounds in the town, of 30% spent over 20 pounds, and 7% spending over 100. So the spend in the town looks fairly good, and that's what we want to encourage, to sort of help those businesses. So I do have to agree with Councillor Harris slightly that it was a lot of money for what actually happened, but I think, yeah, if we can make sure that the outreach and communities are involved and doing their bit, I think it's got to be a good thing.
Councillor Taylor?
I'm not convinced it's really good use of our money. But I have a feeling this is going to go through. So if it does go through, can we ask for more workshops? It's all well and good putting on workshops in sports hubs, libraries, but if we can take the workshops into schools where the kids are, I think what we will find is that kids who are enthusiastic will go to these, you know, the ones that we put on at the Redlands and at the library. But it's getting to the kids and trying to influence kids who wouldn't normally go to this sort of thing. So I'd love to see it going out into the schools, particularly some of the younger schools, that the parents may not bring them into these sort of hubs. So as I say, I'm not over keen on it. I don't think it's particularly good use of our money, but if it does go through, I would like more in our schools, please.
Yeah, can we include Western schools in those schools?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing throughout Western.
No.
I'm going to come in next, then Councillor Furman and Councillor Todd. I actually looked at the video on YouTube of the performance that are looking to offer us. It's 6 drummers and a metal goat head. A 15-minute performance for 2 nights, so half-hour performance, £50,000. Puppets got people moving through town. That was the 2 puppets 2 years ago. Quite enjoyed the fish, and it was quite a big group to do that. And again, I still thought it was costly, but a metal goat head, I don't think £20,000 of council taxpayer is value for money. And I think we could put a workshop on every single school with an arts person for £20,000 and put something similar to what we used to have in the Spirit of the Sea, where all the schools dressed up as fish and jellyfish and made all these sorts of things and did procession on the Esplanade for £20,000. Engage with more of our residents and make it just as attractive with the support of PID helping us market it than what we'll get for 6 people. I think the other point is with my knowledge of events, large scale events, is it only costs £70,000 for a 2-day carnival with full events activity. 50,000 for half hours worth of activity. I know they're professionals, but funds don't add up in my view.
Can I ask what's the goat said? Where was that?
It was on YouTube. It was on the link.
Right, I didn't watch it.
But it was like a metal goat said it wasn't.
Well, no, I haven't said that.
Councillor Furman.
Thank you, Chair. I'd be interested to see what you come up with for £20,000. But I think, Councillor Taylor, you've hit the nail on the head. It's about engaging. Here's the Weymouth Council bingo. I'm a teacher. I like young people. All right. It's what we should be doing. Those, you're right to say, and we deal with it every day in school. It's those important public events are great, but it's the parents that are engaged and already doing that stuff that comes. So we really need, for this amount of money, to be hitting kids in deprived areas. And I'm thinking Littlemore, I'm thinking Western, you know, bottom 10% deprived. And that's just the start. We should be getting this across schools. I think that's a great shout in terms of putting that money into putting something in the schools that is then delivered in the town, that brings that football in. Nobody likes spending more than, you know, parents on kids that want stuff and want to go in shops and things. I think there's value there in doing something different. I did think the £8.33 per head, would I pay for, you know, for my family, what's that, £33.50 to watch what we've described. I won't simplify it because I'm sure I'm much more fan of the arts than you, but you know, but I wouldn't pay that much money for that if we put it into those terms. So I'm not sure why we would pay that money as responsible, you know, representatives. That's just how I'd say it. So I think if there's a recommendation coming or something around what we can do from a school instigated event, let's do it.
Was there a month that we thought of, that they were looking at doing this? Was it on there?
September 2 in the paper. I'm going to get Councillor Toff now to just have a hand raising.
I'm sort of repeating what you said. In my opinion, the puppets were brilliant. They really were a joy to watch. And I didn't think that this year's display was half as good. And I was wondering how much we paid for the first compared to how much we paid the same. So I didn't think this one was as much fun for money myself, having watched both of them. I'm just, you know.
Councillor Roos.
Interesting. So I used to be in the rubbish band at Weymouth College, where we take bits of rubbish and we go out and do public displays, playing drum rhythms. There's quite a lot of talent already in Weymouth. If you look at the college, I think they still have a rubbish band even. But a part of me is like, in Dexter School, St. John's, they do have engagement. They do have organisations that go in and put on plays for the kids and that do try and introduce them to the arts. So I wonder if we could go back to this organisation and say, look, if you want that kind of money, can you give us some proposals of how you're going to actually engage with the school kids? That's a stipulation of ours. And unfortunately, unless you're going to give us a bit more or demonstrate us a bit more, you might not get that funding. Because I do think it is an extreme amount of money. And for like 50 quid, you could probably get Weymouth College to do rubbish band demonstration in front of the Jubilee clock and then get them to go into all the schools and let the kids join in and have a demonstration as well. So, you know, and I could probably put that together myself in half an hour. So I just want to say, like, there is talent around that we could be scouting for a bit more, especially if we're looking at that kind of money. It is an awful lot of money.
Yeah.
Councillor James.
I'm just going to ask, actually, again, it was about the suggestion that you give money to schools and get them to do their own thing, and you know, perhaps a small grant of say couple of £1,000 each. Well, I don't know, but could this not be incorporated in with something that the schools could do in relation to the coronation, so that they can do some sort of event? I know we are, but you know, rather than us spending that 20,000 on this, if that's the general feeling, giving that money to the schools to do something that follows on maybe from the coronations, but there is something they can do.
Point out at the moment, there is no money. There's no allocated budget for this unless we take it out of our reserve.
I mean, don't give it to them then.
50 quid Weymouth College.
Okay, anyone else indicated to speak? Do I have a proposal? Go on,
Yeah, so just, I think in summary, was too much money spent for what was proposed. So I think we should put something down around going, as we've said, to go back to the facilitators and see what they can deliver school-wide. I think the idea of light in dark is very popular.
I'm fine now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the people that benefit in terms of value for money is whether they want to sponsor at least part of it so that we can get a more value for money, maybe. I don't know.
I think, Councillor Gray, I think the issue would be, if you don't approach some of these say, we're already paying for it, the Councillor Brooks.
I think we should, rather than get track on what we could do as an alternative or this, that, and the other, is to just say that we don't agree with this recommendation. I mean, if we want to go and look at alternative things like Tier's recommendation, that sounds brilliant. But there's all sorts of other things, but that's the sort of stuff we should be doing all the time. Just looking for alternative things to do in alternative places. It's, in many ways, it can be a cut price.
I want to draw this one to a close, and it's something new, Councillor Roos.
I was going to say, we could go back and say, look, for 10 grand, don't bother putting something on in town, but we just visit these schools and put something on for the schools. I don't know, I think if we could reduce the money and come back with something a bit better.
Probably could approach Activate or any arts council, but we need this to come forward by a PID process on what we actually want them to deliver. So I'm going to take the item as it is now on this specific event. Do I have a proposal?
To what I think what Councillor said, just
want somebody to recommend it so we can all vote against it.
Or propose that we don't take it forward?
Yeah, can I propose that we don't take it forward?
Thank you very much, Councillor Brooks. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Taylor's indicated their leadership. Yeah. Okay, we now have a recommendation on the table that we do not support the event this year. That's been proposed by Councillor Brooks, seconded by Councillor Taylor. No one wants to speak to that. A show of hands in favour.
Do we need to make it clear with the alternative though, just to make sure?
Any member of the committee can bring that forward as
Yeah, I
a.
just don't want it to sort of think we're being real screwy.
Those against? All those abstaining? One abstention. Thank you very much. Moving on, the James led us into this one is proposals for to celebrate the King's coronation, introduced by Charlie Shepherd.
Following the national announcement of the King's coronation that will take place on the 6th of May next year and the additional bank holiday, members are invited to consider the proposals as set out in the report of how the council could lead on the local celebrations. So we put together a few options, perhaps a seafront flower display on that Saturday evening. Obviously, this would come at a cost. Supporting street parties. Again, I'll be working with Dorset Council because they would obviously grant the street parties, but we can obviously point our residents in the right direction. It worked well with the Jubilee, the grant scheme for local charities and organisations to obviously have their own celebrations, which were open then to community groups. So we put in a suggested allocation of money within that, say. And then the other was coronation trees for every school. So we would give a tree to every school to plant within the ground to mark the coronation. So, so I just open up to obviously members' discussion, and obviously point out that again, although no budget has been currently allocated at this time, we did have some thoughts whether this could come from the services event reserve, which is currently in situation.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Would anyone like to speak? Councillor James.
Am I right? Does it adds up to sort of £10,000 or something, doesn't it? Am I right? And I think that seems like money better spent because it's covering several different bases. And as well as, you know, we need to find out, we need community groups and others to let us know what their events they're planning, because I expect there'll be lots of people planning lots of things anyway, which hopefully that little small amount of money may help them make better. But I think that overall, that amount of money to go on planting some trees, have some other events, I think that's going to be money better spent. And I think if we can find money from other places to do other things, we're well and good.
Thank you very much. Councillor Taylor.
Can I just ask a question on the community grants side of it? When we did the Jubilee this year, God, the community grants were set at £500, maximum of £500. So I just wondered why they're being set at £350 for this. The other thing that I'd like to propose is that I see that any grants from the community grants will come under our grants policy. Would it be possible, and I think it should be done anyway, that anybody who has grants gets back to the council and reports back on the grants, because there wasn't that within the Jubilee grants applications. So even though, you know, even if we only give say 350, I think it's still worth people coming back to us and telling us what they've done with the money and whether they've actually ended up making a profit out of the council. Because that was, I know there's a few groups did make quite a profit, and I'm not sure that's what it was intended for.
Okay, thank you very much. Charlie, any response on that?
As part of the T's and C's which were issued for the acceptance of grants, it was asked that people do a return to the council on what the grant monies were spent on, and they had 6 months following the event to submit their return. So obviously that's now coming to an end. So I will be chasing those who haven't given in a return on what their monies were spent on.
Excellent. Taylor, you've got some work to do.
Yes. I have to see the form, yes.
Just on the other point there, Charlie, can you explain the £350? I'm guessing it's because there's 10 wards.
There you are.
However, if the committee recommends to increase that figure, it may do so. It's in its power. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Lambert.
Yeah, you're right, Chair. Thank you very much. It is fireworks.
I could have guessed, Councillor Lambert.
I don't like to be, too normal, but there we go. You all clearly know that I've gone about this many times before. I'm concerned that we're in the business of introducing another fireworks event. And I accept that it is the will of this committee to have more fireworks events. As you know, I always vote against it. I have spoken previously about my support for Guy Fawkes Night on the basis that it probably overall polluting the bay as we do every time we have a fireworks night is probably actually better on balance than everybody setting off fireworks in their own homes. I have been convinced of that. And I think the same is probably going to be true on the coronation. So I'm caught here rather. I really do feel that we have to take it seriously, that we are actively and knowingly paying out preset money in order to pollute the bay. And we can't get away from that. And I know we have to make difficult decisions. Just as it's interesting that we've just turned down an arts project request, which actually does provide an alternative to fireworks. And I think that's fair enough, given the figures, but I'll just point out that if the two events this year were half an hour each, and we balked, or people balked at the fact that that was £20,000 for 1 hour's entertainment. Fireworks at £6,000 for a 10-minute entertainment comes out to £36,000 per hour. So maybe if we applied that argument as we just did to this particular scenario of fireworks, then we're not being logical there. And I do believe we ought to be maintaining a sensible line. I know you won't agree with me, but there you go. Thank you for listening to me once again, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lambert. Would anyone else like to come in? Councillor Fluhan?
Yeah, thank you. I didn't get the whole of your words on the fireworks. Councillor
Can I say it again?
No, I have a feeling I've heard them many times before. So thanks for that. I would just say around, perhaps with Councillor Taylor was it Councillor Taylor that you're mentioning around the 350 in relation to budget? Perhaps if the group makes that much money, do we have terms and conditions for that money to come back to the council so we can reinvest it in future events? And is that something that may well be, welcome if someone's making, a community group's making lots and lots of money, a few thousand or whatever, for that 350 to come back to the council so we can sort of reinvest it in future community events? I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud, I don't really have an opinion on it.
Right. I don't know, I was just going to say
You can only eat so
that is
Shall
true,
it?
is what you're saying. That if the communities are making money, the council can invest it, but surely wouldn't it be better for those community groups to be making something further for what their needs as a community?
Yeah, I'm sort of thinking just above and beyond
Yeah,
the
both
level.
ways
I'm not
works.
really talking at the
Yeah.
level, I'm sort of thinking
Yeah.
beyond. It's just a thought. I don't really have an opinion on it. It was just what jumped to mind.
Still need fireworks though.
Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Chairman. The King, when he was appointed, said that when he had his coronation, he wanted to keep it as low key as possible. I'm not sure that spending £6,000 when we are in such a bad state of finance is something that the King would approve of.
Very much. Councillor Dickinson.
I think the King was talking about his public day. He wanted a small corridor.
I also think reputational as well. I think we're the biggest town in Dorset, other than Ball, obviously, and I think we would probably be the only town in Dorset that didn't actually put on some sort of event like that, and I think that would not make us look very well among people. People would say, bringing old Wayne again, we're not doing this, but we are, and everyone else is enjoying it.
Councillor Lambert.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd like to hear what Councillor Jones has to say. This is the fourth or fifth time that you have spoken without the chair requesting that you speak. So I would ask that it's all done through the chair, please.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lambert. Just on this event, I'm wondering, when we talk about the finances, whether or not we may speak to our neighbouring town councils to see if the committee does agree with the fireworks, that they to make a contribution to this. Because I'm sure that Portland residents and Chickwell residents will come to Weymouth to see the fireworks and participate. So I'm just wondering, whether or not a serious, contribution, we contact both their town councils to see whether or not they're willing to make a contribution towards the event. I think further to that, I'd like to ask officers to look at what the cost would be to put a concert on the beach on the day that we're proposing to do the fireworks. And this goes back to what Councillor Wakeling said about, can we do something to encourage people to stay after the event, slow the dispersal out to avoid that congestion? And I think it's also nice that if we could get local artists and schools involved in their school choirs doing a performance on that stage. I'm sure WOW and all that would also get involved, because I think it's quite, you know, it will be a thing to remember that they performed on Weymouth Beach during the coronation. So I think, you know, we have got budget and an unmarked reserved. I did speak very early on to the Chair of Finance and Governance to say, if there was any underspend in the community grant scheme, whether or not that money could be used towards this also. And he indicated that possibly. So I'm looking at him now and did I really say that? So I think if we can have that come back as another option in the near future, that we look at a small stage setup or some sort of envision, because I think as well as doing things in the smaller communities and the community celebrating, it's good sometimes to have these events where the whole community comes together. And I think, you know, if you think back to the way important being in a royal borough, I think, you know, a lot of people here that are proud to support monarchy, and having that option to come together as a town and supported by our neighbouring towns would also be good. Councillor Roos.
Can I ask, did we have fireworks? Because I attended 6 street parties on the Jubilee. Did we have fireworks on Jubilee Day?
Yes, we did it after we did the beacon, the no court, you might recall, you went through to watch them.
But that wasn't on the day, was it?
That was on the National Beacon Lighting Day.
So that was 2 days before the actual Sunday street party? Or it was the day before, wasn't it?
It coincided with the beacon lighting, which I
Yeah, but then the street parties
were
were
followed on the
Sunday.
weekend.
So,
4-day celebration.
yeah, so it was a 4-day celebration. But because I'm just visualizing, the coronation is meant to be what, 1 day? Or is it going to be another 4-day celebration?
I'm cautious whether I can come in or.
Yeah.
Sorry. So the coronation will take place on the Saturday, and then the additional bank holiday, which has been given, will be on the Monday, the 8th. So it will be a 3-day weekend. So
My thoughts are just that 1 day where I went to 6 street parties, there was a hell of a lot of patriotism and people really in the swing of it. To the point that I thought that was very well done, and would there need to be fireworks and the day, or even be that weekend when everybody's just had such a good time producing their own community vibe around the celebrations. I don't know if it's worth being a bit more resourceful, and like Ryan said, I do like the idea of maybe instead of fireworks, we had more of a community, let's bring everybody together to see a performance, or, you know, I'm sure WOW wouldn't actually cost £6 grand for the night. Do you know what I mean? Just a thought, you know. You know, fireworks to me is like, I don't know, getting a bit dated, isn't it?
I don't want to get into the whole fireworks debate, we've done that several times. Well, I never said instead of, I'm a big supporter of fireworks, much as Councillor Lambert. Councillor Tom.
I don't know him personally, obviously, but I imagine as an environmentalist, he would prefer that we didn't have fireworks. Just a thought.
Thank you very much. Councillor Harris.
I certainly would like to recommend that we look at alternative major performance, keep the £6,000 available, look for a major performance, potentially using the communities, so getting the schools to participate in something, getting local art groups to participate in it, and let's celebrate it, definitely, but maybe through that way of getting involved, as opposed to getting them passive watching something.
Gonna take in the feeling in the room. Gonna make what I feel is a recommendation, I'm hoping it will be supported, that the committee agrees to the £3,500 to communities, because it's important the communities can start the plan. We agree to the £500 for tree station or proposal around a larger scale event for the 6th of May. That may include a concert. And it's still I'm just to understand. For a large scale event. Post myself, secondly, to item 10, which is the free use of Dorset Council. Before she does, I'm just going to make again a non-pecuniary declaration as a member of a charity that is proposed to benefit
in the town. Service and Parade on Sunday the 18th of November, the Remembrance Sunday Parade on the 12th of November, and next year's Christmas lights switch on the 25th of November. Is there any question?
Thank you very much, Charlie.
Charlie, just on those events, could you just give us for each of those events, just so we can see the real-time benefit of having those car parks available for those events?
So the free car park for the event will be given from 8 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock in the evening.
Sure. When's the thing actually happening? You know, is our o'clock in the evening? For example, on all four of them, do we have?
The the session event from when the parking meters switch on. So
Right.
okay,
All see what's going on there. That's lovely, thank you. So, under the environment, ecology and climate change, we've pointed out here fossil fuel vehicles create carbon emissions impacting on the environment. Inevitably, the offer of free parking will stimulate the use of cars. Although if the council is organising an event, it will encourage the use of public transport, walking and cycling. Now, as I've said before, I have real problems, given that we have declared a climate and ecological emergency. I have real problems with encouraging people to use their cars. And I'm very pleased to see that officers have highlighted that to you, and the rating there, folks, unduly friendly, comrades or councillors, is in red, which means that it has negative impacts upon, it's a negative impact, and draw your attention to that when you're thinking about this. Second area that I would highlight, and I have to take a different line on this, is under equalities. Under equalities, the impact is judged to be positive because the free use of car parks can assist those on low incomes. Now, I would agree that a proportion of people do have cars and are on low incomes. But I think what is very true is that people who do not have cars are very often not having a car because they are on extremely low incomes. And as we're in the period of a cost of living crisis, I'm afraid this goes really right against what I believe should be going on, and is not in the best interest of the people who are least able to cope with what is being thrown at them by the state of the economy. Now, what we can be certain of is that anybody who does not own a car, and I'm waiting for the accurate figures to come out in the census on this, but it was at the last census, around about 25% of households had no cars in the Weymouth and Portland area. Now, that means that those people cannot possibly benefit from this initiative. Now, we are simply responding to a proposal that's come forward from Dorset Council. And I think it's about time that we took a stand and told Dorset Council, thank you very much, but we don't actually think this is appropriate because Dorset Council also declared an ecological and climate emergency. That's their business. But I once again, I'm very unhappy about this. I recognise that some charities, when they're trying to organise events, can benefit from this. They're not all charities that we're proposing these days for, but I think we ought to look at the equalities, and I would ask officers to reconsider whether or not they have the correct impact assessment there, because I'm pretty sure that it is incorrect with regard to equalities. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lambert, for raising those points. Can I just ask for a point of clarity from the officers? Because it's always my understanding that the policy allocation from Dorset was that the car park can be used for an event, not to offer free parking to draw people to that event.
Charlie can add to this, but I think the policy is it's in support of events. So it would either be the event takes place in the car park, or the use of free parking supports the actual people taking part in the event. So it's quite I don't think the policy is hugely tight and prescriptive. Charlie, would you agree with that as an interpretation?
Indeed, and it's obviously a delegation of the parking services manager. But it could be opened up to free parking, or alternatively, the car park can be used as an event site.
Okay, so just on that point then, if the committee does go forward with the recommendations, can we, on A, rather than just asking for the 2 car parks, ask for every car park for armed forces? So as well as the logistical reasons we applying for those, the town council to use for the displays, that we also then have the free parking to benefit residents.
Yeah.
Just thinking, let's get the most out of Dorset as we can. And I'd say then the same on the beach motocross. So historically, the arrangement has been for the pavilion car park, but let's ask for all car parks. If that's what we can do, because let's get the most out of it. But then I say, on the other hand, I take Councillor Lambert's point, and if the policy is just for events, then 2 of those events, we're not offering free parking to increase additional vehicles into the town. We're actually using them logistically to enable to hold events that economically benefit the town. So the armed forces use it for the static displays and the stands and the marching bands, which wouldn't be able to go elsewhere. And the motocross use it as the pits that can't go anywhere else. So they're not actually offering people free parking. So it is on both, and that's why I was actually concerned around what the policy agreement was, because it was always my understanding, and even going back to the old council days, that it was that specific car park for the event. Saying that though, I'm not sure why we've deviated away from going out for application. Because last year, I think we had a process that worked very well. We went out to community groups and we gave all community groups the opportunity to come forward to council and ask for that support and bid for that support. And we got a range of different organisations come forward asking different things. And through that process, in some cases, we were able to work with some of those event organisers to offer them different locations that we actually owned to support their event. So although we didn't necessarily deviate from dates that we've previously done, we were still able to support a wider range of events through different things by knowing that they needed that support. So I'm actually tempted to say the recommendation from committee will go out to open application and bid, as we have done in previous years, with then a recommendation to come forward from those proposals to the next services committee.
Not the next.
No, the next one will be too short because of the Christmas break, but it would be the one after that. Councillor James, you were next.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I actually, yeah, I'd agree with that, because I don't know how this came about then, because, yeah, I remember we did have other groups that came forward and said that they would like to have use of the car park. So, yeah, I think I'd agree we should do that. Although I'll always support things like the Armed Forces Weekend, Remembrance Sunday, and the use of the, like you say, for the vehicles, military vehicles and anything else to be able to park. I'm still trying to get my head around a bit about the equalities and about the provision of free use of car parks and assist those on low incomes, because I think that's what it says on the tin. That yes, there are a percentage of people who don't own a car in and around Wayne, but that's for various reasons. And simply if you own a car, then you would necessarily use a car park, and if you can use it for free if you're on a low income, that's got to be a good thing. And I can honestly safely say that having done the job that I've been doing for 20 years, there are even more cars on the road, whether we like it or not, and families are getting more and more cars as more and more people are learning to drive. So I just think that if you've got a car and you can afford a car and you want to come into town, there are various reasons why you need it. It could be you've got a big family, you need to get shopping. It could be that you are disabled, but you can't walk very far. And if you've got a car and there's free use of car park, I think people are going to take it up and they're going to spend their money in and around town in those businesses that we want to help.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor James. Councillor Roos.
I was going to say, Councillor, I hope you've nailed my thoughts. It's kind of, if we don't have we need the car parks for those events, otherwise we don't have those events. But I was going to say, if we're not using the car parks, can we ask DC for the money instead?
You can ask.
We tried that one.
Next, we've got Councillor Berman and Councillor Dickinson.
Yeah, thanks. So Charlie, are any of these events here, because these are big events within our calendar. Are there any events here that have a cost benefit to the town council in terms of what we're providing? In terms of, let's say, so if we're running the armed forces event,
Yes.
would we, if we gave it to somebody, if we gave that allocation to somebody else, would we then have to incur a cost to have those car parks that day?
Yes.
Okay.
Town council would incur a cost of about £10,000 if the committee didn't choose to assign it to the armed forces Sunday.
For the other ones, is there an idea on those? Well, if anything, because it's coming back, if we could just factor that in, because I'd probably say that's a big one for us. We don't want to be paying out £10,000 from our budget if we can have it Dorset Council gifted to us. So I think there's just that consideration to think about as well. When we come back to it next week.
Okay, Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you, Chair. We went through this debate last year where we said we'll have different events and we'll put it out to tender and everything. And we ended up with the same 4. So are we going to go through the same thing we went through this year, saying, oh, let's try and encourage other events and everything? Nothing happens. And we end up going back to the same 4 thing, because that's what happened last year.
I think I did make that point in that, but I did highlight that we had like a car rally that wanted to apply to use the forecourt one day. And instead of the forecourt, we offered them the Esplanade free of charge. So there are other benefits that come from advertising this that we can actually say, there's a better idea of doing that rather than using the car park, or have you thought of? So I see your point, but there are definitely benefits.
Thanks, Jay. It's just follow up on Councillor Roos's point. Those of you who've been lucky enough to hear me talk in the Services Committee for 3 or 4 years now will remember that my original proposal was that we asked for the money from Dorset Council that is accrued in the car parks, and that we use that money to provide either free public transport or a park and ride service. So I just remind folks, sorry, councillors of that. Thank you.
I think Councillor Lambert, I think something like that needs to probably come forward as a motion to full council. We send that request to Dorset Council, because we've been saying it for a while now. If you mean that, let's put some weight behind it and get it through the right process. I don't think there'd be much attention to it, but if that's what you want to do, let's get a motion to council. Okay, was there anyone else? Councillor Berman?
Just a quick one, in line with kind of what Councillor Dickinson was saying about those other events coming through. We do have that one from 1 o'clock on November 12th. If we go with that, we've got 5-6 hours of car park space that we could include another event, which could give, you know, more of an offering on that day. So could be something that some of the locals. But yeah, that's all.
It's a good point, Councillor Berman, but bear in mind that is Remembrance Sunday, is it quite exciting to be running maybe a fairground or something very fancy.
I'm just trying to think of what, you know, we've got a resource there, let's use it. You know, it doesn't have to be a somber, you know, I know Remembrance is a low key event, but it doesn't need to be, you know, it's got positives that we can.
Okay then, so do we have anyone that's looking to make a recommendation to this item? If not, I'm going to propose that we put the dates out for community application and bring that forward to the next item. Committee meeting, that's only in January and Christmas break, but the one after, don't have the date to hand. Do I have a seconder to that? Councillor Tewkesbury. All those in favour? Show of hands. For, any against, or any abstentions? Thanks. Thank you very much, that's carried, and we'll see that come forward. But I think just if we can within the application, just get groups to put on there how much that the application will save their event or I think we'll pick up on Councillor Fleming's point. Last item for discussion is item 12, which is the Youth Council PID. Councillor Furman, over to you.
Welcome to Town Council Bingo, it's me again, Youth Council. I know members, it's come before you quite a few times. It is developing very well. Just to give you a verbal update, that we had a steering group in October, which was attended by Budmouth, and there were various reasons why some other schools didn't come. From that, the Budmouth students chose that they would like a social mixer in an evening of a Friday, which happened last month. That myself, Councillor Harris, I think Councillor James attended them there as well, and we had a really good turnout. We had young people from across the town, and we were really excited with the ideas and feedback we were getting. So much so we've included them in this agenda tonight in reference to the fairground stuff, which was taken on. The PID is before you. This PID is really, in a nutshell, just confirming what is going on already in terms of an officer delegation set up and budgetary kind of confirmation instead of me doing all the work. Yeah, so it's kind of, that's what it's doing. I hope if there's any questions, happy to field them.
Thank you very much, Councillor Furman. Any questions on this? Councillor James?
Yeah, I noticed on the cost of the project, you've got a DBS and safeguarding training for leads in contact with young people. Is that the councillors you're talking about that are doing this? Surely, because we're all supposed to have a DBS check, I thought, or has that gone out the window now? I know we used to have one, and I know some of us did safeguarding years ago. We did some training, but no, we don't have to do the DBS, because I know I have to do an enhanced one for my job, but we don't have to do that at all. No.
I will just say, as a team, if you're having direct one-on-one contact, and I'm happy to be corrected by anyone here, I believe you would need a DBS check, and I've recommended that we have safeguarding level 2 as a minimum, because young people can divulge information, and we need to be prepared to have that dialogue and report it in the appropriate manner. But if we're working in more of a grander scheme, an open room, there it is appropriate that some of us do not have DBSs. And some of us do. I mean, we are covered by the council. I hope that within that we can have, particularly the officers that are working with the youth council and the lead councillors. But for everybody who would like to turn up to an event, I'm not suggesting we need to DBS everyone, because you're covered in proximity, in the same way that if you have an assistant coach at a sports club,
Okay, anyone else? No, okey dokey then. So we're going to go forward with the
Move the recommendation.
Proposed by Councillor Harris, seconded by Councillor Furman. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. And just the point there to thank Councillor Furman for his efforts in getting this working. And it's great to see now that we are, as a town council, after the delays of COVID, now starting to engage with young people more and have this youth council a step closer to being created. Moving on to item 13, which is the information items, which are exactly that. As always, members, you can contact the lead officer on any of these should you need more information. They are there just for noting. And with that, we move forwards to the forward plan. Point out that our next meeting is the 18th of January, which brings me quite nicely onto the close of the meeting. And I'd like to take the opportunity to thank everyone for their input this evening, especially those members of the public that turned up. I think we've had a very good debate and a very good discussion and move forward and be respectful. And I think that can be said of the whole year's worth of meetings, so I'd like to thank you for that and wish you all a very Merry Christmas and thank the officers. So